So we just got finished talking about copywriting and writing effective ads. And right now I'd like to talk to you guys about some strategies that you can use that, again, if you're not in this stage in your business, just put a little bookmark in this and you'll be able to come back to it later. If you are, hopefully we can give you some really great advice. So when you're working with print media in particular, but really media in general, oftentimes you'll be able to call, like, let's say a newspaper. And when you call them and you ask, like, how much would it be to run a half-page advertisement in your newspaper? They'll quote you a price, and then you'll laugh hysterically because it's so high.
Yes.
Right?
You should laugh.
You should laugh at least.
Whatever they quote you will be a joke. I guarantee it to you.
In ad sales in the media, they have what's called a rate card. And this is a pricing sheet for different levels and types of advertisements in newspaper, TV, everything else. And the markup on the advertisement versus from what it costs the magazine or television show or whatever you're trying to advertise in will be one cost. And then the markup will be something 2, 3, 4 times higher than they could actually be comfortable going with. So would you guys like a quick, easy way to be able to negotiate down a newspaper in order so that you could run a classified ad like you guys have written, like that sort of letter to a friend, that would give you a massive reduction in price? Would that be valuable to you guys?
Yes, good.
All right.
And just to give you a scale, you should be able to save somewhere between at least a third of the price, but as much as 2/3 of the price, depending on the newspaper.
So, as a fortunate thing for you and maybe an unfortunate thing for newspapers and print media in particular, in the time that we're living in, is that they're a bit on a decline, and they're always looking for revenue, always looking for money. So after you've had a nice call with the wonderful gentleman or lady on the other end of the phone and said, you know, I don't think I could really afford prices like you're quoting me. If you do any negotiation, get them down to a particular rate. I forget how much you decided to discount yourself.
Oh, when we do the letter and so on, I usually said at least 50%. But if you want to be ballsy, take off 2/3 of the price.
So what you can do is send a letter and write out a check for half off, 2/3 off of the price that they're quoting you. And you can say, here's my ad, and whatever format they need it in. And if you would like to run it in your newspaper, this is what I would like to pay, and you can cash this check for that amount. So it's, you know, half, third of the cost, right? And oftentimes, not always, if you send this right before the publishing deadline, right before everything needs to go to print, this is a check that's just sitting there in their inbox. And yeah, it might not be exactly the amount of money that they're looking for, but it's almost like free money. And if they've got space, you can almost be guaranteed that they will run it. Now, again, this does not guarantee that they will have space, and you will have to work out some timings and figure out when their publishing dates are.
A simple way to do that, by the way, is when you have your initial phone call and ask them what your rate card is, once you start laughing at their answer, just ask them, okay, if I was going to send in my advert, what format would you need it in? And when would be the latest you would have to have that so you could still publish it, right?
Yep.
So they'll basically say, okay, we need it by 10 a.m. on Thursdays, because then it goes in. Go, great. So you make sure that you either courier thing across, maybe you bring it yourself physically, or you mail it and make sure it arrives in that morning. And then it's just sitting there. They open their mail and go, oh, I've got all these empty slots, what do I do? Oh, look, there's money. It's not quite what I wanted, but it beats nothing, right?
Yeah.
So it's very rare that they don't use it, unless, of course, as Joe was saying, they've actually already filled the space out. Good question over here.
Is there any particular section of the newspaper, day of the week in the newspaper that...
Experiment. That would be different.
Yeah, so the question
according to each
was,
place.
the question was, is there any particular day or week or section of the newspaper? And the answer is experiment and try it out.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
specify all that on your
Yeah.
offer?
Oh,
You
for
can
sure.
certainly specify that.
When you send your letter, you'll basically say, look, this is so let's say you're going to go for a big one-page ad. I'd like this to have a one-page ad. You can even say, I would like this to be in, between pages 3 and 10. And, please use this. Just realize that the larger the ad you will give, the less likely they'll have the space to put it in.
Yeah.
So usually you want to think about quarter-page ads or even like 1/8 page ads. Those are the ones that will be the awkward spaces that they tend to have, they need some filler for anyways. So those are the ones that tend to be most acceptable. When you start going to half-page ads and full-page ads, personally I have no experience of it, but my instinct or intuition, try it for sure. It's worth a punt, right?
Yeah.
But my instinct would be that it's going to be less likely to be put in.
Yeah. And if it's not happening for you, you could possibly put a higher rate,
Yeah.
getting closer to the rate card that they quoted you. But like we said, the larger the ad, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But again, test. You never know.
Yeah. Hey, you could luck out, and you could have
This works actually better in local newspapers, especially. The smaller circulations, they're always hungry for cash.
especially the weekly ones, especially the daily ones, because once you're in for the whole week. And if you luck out and get a half page or a full page, it's there for the whole week at a tiny fraction of the price.
And it should be said, we've talked a lot about this, but I'll remind you again. We do not market, we... Okay, there's
come on,
oh,
folks.
come on, guys. We
What
don't
do we do?
market, we... Right? So would putting a single ad in the newspaper one time be marketing or campaigning? Marketing, right? Especially in print media, but also in television, media that's consumed by a lot of people, repetition is the key. And it doesn't mean you need to send the exact same message out every single time. But for advertisements like this to work, you need to keep a constant stream of them going. So if you can't afford to spend a lot of money for a 6-month run, which is sort of the industry average for where you would start getting results, I would recommend that you go with the other parts of the system that will work, that won't cost you any more than your time. So again, please do not market. Please campaign and continue to use those ads to get them on your list and do all sorts of stuff that are not going to cost you money to continue to run those ads. Just like if you had a TV ad at 3 in the morning, the dyslexic pimps might actually see it, but no one else probably will. So again, maybe you're in, some random local area and you could find, getting a commercial on television for really cheap. But we have better strategies on how to get on TV and radio for free, essentially, for an extended segment. Would that be useful to you guys? Yeah. All right. I'll show you guys that in a few minutes.
Later. Yeah.
So let me talk about the difference between newspapers and magazines. So you can use this same strategy with magazines as well. It has not currently worked for me yet, but I know other people that it has worked for. Magazines versus newspapers is kind of an interesting subject. Newspapers, I look at it as sort of a general audience for the most part. If it's a local newspaper, it's going to be the general audience for wherever their circulation happens to be. But magazines can be really great. Oftentimes, especially for your particular niche, there will always be a magazine. And their rate card might be a little bit higher than, say, a general purpose newspaper, but you're going to be getting more targeted advertisement, right? Your customers, your potential clients are reading these things because they're interested in that particular subject, right? Let's say, you have some really great stuff for kids. You might want to advertise in a parenting magazine, right? Those, for kids, the real client is the parents of the kids, right? And they're reading about parenting techniques. They're reading about things they can do to, keep the kids happy, keep them in line at the supermarket, whatever it happens to be. And if you're selling an advertisement, a service there, you might get a better targeted market for what you're advertising. And again, we don't market, we don't market, Thank you. So, can you see how, just again, remember the idea of niching down might help you with a magazine in your area, in a particular niche that's going to work for you, might be worth a few extra dollars to pay for, right? Good. So, are there any questions? All right, we'll move on then. So, I often do a lot of stuff online. So I'd like to show you sort of step by step a few of the different types of websites that are pretty popular that I use. And again, this is going to be heavily dependent on your market. If these things are US centric, I apologize, that's my market. So if you're international on the TV, you're gonna have to find your own resources perhaps. Anyway, let's talk about a really great one for especially classified ads, and that would be Craigslist.
Which is international.
Which is international, yes. And Craigslist is actually a really great way, not only that I do market research, find clients, but I also just advertise for people to get onto my list. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen Craigslist before. What I often look for is in really every service, but particularly the services that I'm interested in are going to be the ones that are related to the niches that I happen to be targeting. So let's say we'll go back with our example of targeting construction workers in pain. One type of thing I like to do is go to the different job sections. I'll take a look at all the different construction jobs if they're there, and there's usually, I believe there's a construction particular category there, and go into that section and start getting an RSS feed. And I put that into Google Reader. Remember how we showed you guys how to do that? And when you go into that particular section, you can actually type in particular keywords. And so I'll look for construction jobs near my area. I'll look for people and the types of big companies hiring. And I'll just sort of start to get an example, an idea of my market. And in that particular case, it would be construction workers. I may not be able to know if construction workers in pain, but I'm interested in finding where are they getting jobs? Where are they? Who are they talking to? And I might be able to go after them individually, or I might be actually able to miscategorize a post and put it into a particular category like, oh, I'm a hypnotherapist. I can help construction workers in pain. Oops, I miscategorized this into the job folder. They happen to be looking for a job. It happens to come up. The other thing I'll do on Craigslist is actually look through the services section as well. I'm always looking for people providing services to anyone, really. But oftentimes, the section I particularly like is down at the bottom there. It says therapies. And that is a particularly useful one that I find referral partners in. I find competitors, so I can get all sorts of information about what they're saying to the same market that I'm interested in. And oftentimes, I'll contact them. They'll have an email address. They'll have a phone number. And I'll call them, and I'll see what their pitch is like. I'll see what types of things they're offering. If they've got a website, go there, check it out. So are you guys beginning to see how this can be a really great tool for looking at your market?
What is Craigslist? Do you pay to go on that?
There we go.
And how do you find it?
So Craigslist, thank you. Craigslist is actually a free resource. And a lot of the things, like I said, that I've been doing right now are market research related. Feel free to read. There are only a very few select sections of Craigslist that it costs you money to post on. And fortunately for hypnotherapy, it doesn't cost a penny. So post as many times as you like. Craigslist has some spam policies. So again, we're not marketing, we're campaigning. So adding different messages, adding different fascinating facts to your posts on Craigslist in particular categories, focused to a market, of course, you can put as many as you like up there for free.
And you'll find it on Craigslist.com.
Yep, Craigslist.com or Craigslist.org, actually, I think
Sorry,
is
no,
the,
you're right. There you go.
they'll redirect back to the same
Is it?
place.
Well, type Craigslist into Google and maybe put your country or state next to it, and I'm sure the
Yeah.
right version of it will come up.
Yep, this is something that you make posts on. So just like writing an email, and my iPad died before I was able to transfer a picture over, but just like writing an email, there's a quick subject and body that you can put basically where when you're looking on each of these categories, you'll just see a huge list of there'll often be a search box for each of these categories, and you'll just see a list of all different sorts of stuff that people will put there. So, you know, if this particular section was the therapy section, almost didn't spell that right, then you'll see, you know, maybe a hypnotherapist will say, you know, lose weight. There'll be horrible headlines usually. You'll see stuff with, you know, weird symbols and stuff that says, you know, click here. They get a lot of spam in a lot of these things. So again, you know, since it's a free resource, you may not get the high quality clients you would get from something like a lecture demo or a referral partner, obviously. But this is one place that I particularly like, especially to do market research. But I have gotten, combined with another tool, which I'll show you in just a minute, called Thumbtack, that you can get really high quality, good looking listings here on Craigslist. And I've had a few people actually contact me through there and have gotten clients. So especially if you can automate some of these things, and I'm looking into a couple of tools to do that, so I don't have a particular recommendation for those at the moment. But if you can automate a lot of this stuff, then sending out information about yourself on Craigslist is a really essentially no cost to very low cost way of getting your message further out there into a community that might actually be interested. People read this stuff all the time. And in the corner, you'll usually see the logo. I'll draw it a little bigger so you can see here. The logo looks like this. It'll be like in the top corner. This is sort of the accepted universal symbol for the RSS feed. Oftentimes, if you type in a search here for like hypnosis, it'll bring up all the stuff that's related to hypnosis. You can click on this, put that in Google Reader or some other RSS reader. There's programs and stuff how to do that. You'll get a list of, anytime this gets updated, you'll get a list in Google Reader that you can just peruse and look for. In all those types of categories, you can look for the job postings, you can look for this stuff. But I actually like to keep an eye on what my competitors in my area are posting so that I know of any new trends, any new people that have come into the area, anyone else that's been certified, anyone that's running classes. And then I can actually see for myself when I post that things are coming up as well, making sure that they get through any spam filters and things like that. All right, so any questions about Craigslist? All right. Oh, back here?
I've tried to advertise on it, but I was just, while you're sitting here, I would put something on one of their discussion.
So the question was, you haven't advertised on there too much, but how about putting something on their discussion forums? I tend to stay away personally from discussion forums, at least on Craigslist. It's kind of like the Wild West out there, and I'd rather, at least for me, I don't see the value of my time being spent there giving me great results. If there was a relationship to be built there in a community and I could be someone who's recognized there, yeah, I would definitely go. But the value I've seen in it, and I've looked there, you know, I've looked in every section I can, I just haven't seen the value of just spending a lot of time there.
Do you want to get Mike over to James?
I guess I was just going to say the problem that I've found there, it is a free site.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you start talking money, it's hard to get an actual client out of there.
Well, oftentimes in the service directories, I have offers that will go to, again, like a free report, things like that, to start them on a campaign. Otherwise, I have asked for money, and people don't seem to have a problem with it. Again, I'm posting these as suggestions, things to try. So, you know, in your area, if this is not working or if in your experience it hasn't, I'd suggest maybe possibly trying once again. But, you know, I can say that I don't get that many clients from Craigslist, but the few that I do, they're usually not bad. I get a lot of stop smoking clients is mostly what I get from there. And at $500 a pop, I'm willing to spend a little bit of time kind of wading through the SHIT to get in there and you know, try to find a few gems out of there. So it's, you know, a test.
The principle is true, though. As a rule, the freer something is, some things are more free than others, the worst quality clients you'd end up getting, as a rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah,
why
good
I
question.
wondered about that discussions forum, because I did something there once that had nothing to do with hypnosis, and I started it, and within, well, by the next day, I bet I had 200 different responses. I mean, people were just going on and on talking.
Yeah, you know, that's actually could be a good strategy if you start a nice little campaign on there and start a nice lively discussion. But my main goal is to get those people from these other sites onto my list. So if there's a way that you can figure out how to do that, by all means,
Yeah,
have
that's
fun with
kind
it.
of what I was thinking, is it
Yeah.
might be a way to get a conversation going and actually work it towards building into your
If you can
list.
get 200 people on your list from going through a Craigslist discussion, please let me know how you do it, because I'd love to know. All right, any other questions? All right, so here's another website that I particularly like, and we've talked about before a little bit, Groupon. And I'm using Groupon as the, you know, sort of the big granddaddy of these types of sites, but these are daily deal sites. And daily deal sites are actually really starting to come around to the idea of hypnotherapy. When I first started doing Groupons, I've done several as a hypnotherapist and as a coach. I'm working with a different daily deal site to sell a product nationally to the US right now. This is how you work with somebody at Groupon. So the deal is you call up Groupon, or if you're kind of really well known in your area, Groupon actually calls you, which is how I first heard about Groupon, and they'll say, we would like to do a deal for our list. And you say, great. And you're allowed to set pricing, the parameters, and in many cases, how many people you're willing to serve. So you can have a minimum and a maximum of how many people you're willing to serve. You can say, you know what, if 30 people buy this, I'll unlock it. That's the minimum number. If less than that purchase, it's not worth my time. And you can also say, oh, if a max of 200 people get this, I can't fulfill any more than that. And Groupon and other deal sites have gotten sort of a, at least from what I've seen, kind of a bad rep among hypnotherapists lately, because they don't know how to structure a deal that makes sense for their time. So we've been teaching you guys how to create we will teach you guys how to create seminars, products, things that you can do that are going to take very little time to fulfill, or in the best case, 0 time to fulfill. I see a lot of hypnotherapists when they first start on a daily deal site like this, is they'll say, you know, $200 for a session, and they get 200 orders. And now they suddenly have 200, 400 possible hours to fill of sessions. And while that sounds like a really great windfall, remember we talked about there's a point at which businesses can fail, and it's when they're too successful, right? Groupon can make you too successful overnight, and you won't be able to fulfill 200 client requests. And oftentimes Groupon will have, you'll say like, you know what, this expires September 25th, you know, of this year. Everyone will wait until September 24th until they want their session. You will have 200 people that want a session on September 24th, and you'll be like, I'm sorry, I can't. And one of the hidden things about Groupon is what they're doing right now is instead of the people paying you, Groupon actually pays you, and the people have to sort of report that. Groupon has like a special credit card number that they'll pay you, and if their customers don't get the service, then they'll keep that money. So they're almost like an escrow service, and they're kind of mean about they're stingy about keeping all their money. So if you're going to structure a deal on Groupon, I would recommend doing something like a 1-hour lecture demo, which is really a really great way of getting clients. And I treat Groupon just like any other advertisement. In this case, Groupon's really nice because my clients are paying me to advertise to them, essentially. But when I'll do like a 1-hour lecture demo on some particular topic, then I can sign most of those people up at least to my list, or convert many of them to clients so that they've paid for the service that I've offered them, a lecture demo. And now I can send them on a nice campaign, have a nice relationship to start out with them, and I can work with them over time. So I don't recommend that you do sessions for your Groupon deals. If you want to, I would recommend that you put the maximum number that you're going to sell very, very low. But if you can do something that's in a group format, or even better still, in a product format, so you don't even have to do anything at all to really deliver it besides having some stuff shipped, I would highly recommend Groupon as a really great source for all sorts of referrals in your area in particular, because Groupon and a lot of daily deal sites, and you can find some that sometimes are localized to your area, Groupon is, I have a lot of friends that work at Groupon, and they have spent the last couple years both buying companies that do this and building their own infrastructure. They're very good at targeting deals to the exact person who wants them. They only want to send an email to the person if they're going to want it. And they run, it used to be, one daily deal. They run dozens of daily deals now, targeted to very specific customers. So you're getting a really high value for your marketing efforts. And this $199 price for this one, this is an example one, this is not mine. Please note, Groupon will at least take half of that $199. So let's say your stop smoking session, mine cost, let's make it $600 so I can make the math easy. Let's say it costs $600, but you advertise it on Groupon for $300. Wow, they're saving 50%. Groupon still takes 50% of that, so you're actually getting $150. So you're getting about a quarter of what you would normally charge. And here's the beauty, is because you guys pretty much get to set your own prices. I would recommend setting them to a reasonable level so that you're still getting reasonably paid for your services and not giving Groupon, most of your money. Yes?
Can you do a group therapy? Like group therapy as a Groupon?
James, can you get the mic?
So the question was, can you do a group therapy as a Groupon deal?
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what I was talking about, like a lecture demo or a group therapy. I highly recommend doing stuff you can do in bulk, right? Groups. And if you have, let's say, 200 people, but you only like to do it, for 50 or 100, do 4 or 5 of them and let people choose. But I highly recommend doing it in groups, because otherwise you will just be swamped with so much time that you have to give to these people that you won't have time to do anything else.
I remember what Joe was saying a moment ago, which is the beauty of this whole system, which is, think about the game. How much effort have you gone to persuade the owners of the farmers markets to allow them to speak to their group, and then you go there and speak for free in order to get the email and start your whole campaign building process. Right now, what these guys are saying is, we will pay you to send you a potential client. We'll pay you to be able to speak in front of people and then put them on your list and then make clients out of them. So it's an absolute winner. Your lecture demos, especially given the process you have for it now, these things will be, they'll work like the FBI. They are, sorry, I just can't get over that one. You can do a nice, whether it's a 90-minute or a nice 3-hour, and you get a little hotel room, you figure out what the costs are, and you set it so that even though you only get a quarter of what the fee should be, that quarter pays for the hotel room. I mean, let's do some math on this, shall we?
Yep.
Hotel room. Let's say a hotel room for a 3-hour stint, let's say like a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, or even an evening session. You'll book it from 6:30 till 9:30. It's a good 3-hour block after work. People can go to it. It's a good, solid program. Let's say that costs you $300 for the hotel room, right? It's not unreasonable depending on where you're at. If you're in New York, it might be more like $1,000, but it really depends, right? You know it's going to cost you $300. Let's say it's got space for 50 people. But you're going to play it safe. You're going to think you're going to get 25 people in, or even 20 people in, right? So $300, 20 people are coming. How much do you have to pay per person so that you cover your costs? About $50 each, is that right?
15 bucks
Sorry,
each,
15,
yeah.
sorry, there you go. I didn't do the math, so you can tell I'm... So if you set your rate, normal rate, $100, discounted to a massive, 70% to $30, you get your $15 to cover your rates, and now you have a room full of people for free that come onto your list, and then you work your magic from there. And everyone over those 20 people, by the way, remember, you can take 50 people in the room, is actual profit. Now you're being paid to do your song and dance and to run your business machine. I mean, isn't that something? This is the beauty of it.
And this is something that we'll get onto the game later in the next bonus session. But oftentimes, you can't necessarily go back to the same venues over and over and over again, day after day. And Groupon is actually the same way. So I would caution you about Groupon and the other deal sites. They'll send you a long contract. And we've talked about having some legal advice and stuff before.
Yep.
Get that contract looked at by a lawyer. One of the clauses that especially Groupon is particularly onerous about is you're not allowed to, this is their default contract, you can get it changed. You're not allowed to advertise on any other deal sites for like a year and a half after you do one. Right? So, just like she said over here, in many states or principalities or wherever you live, that actually can't be enforced. So, have a lawyer of your own, tell them this, send them a letter, or help you strike out the contract and tell you what your legal options are, and get that hopefully just stricken from your contract so that you can go and do these with other deal sites. Because I can guarantee you that, yeah, there might be some overlapping clients between Groupon, Living Social, and any other deal site that you're going to find, but I can almost guarantee you that there's plenty of difference and that people aren't going to notice this one today, but they'll notice the one you do next week or next month or whatever you do to have capacity.
Think of it like a campaign. When you send 10 emails with the same essential offer, but just with different ways of phrasing and different ideas so it doesn't so it stays fresh. The first one, they may never read. The second one, they may look at and go, oh, I'll read it later. The third one, they go, oh, this is great. Why didn't you tell me about this before?
Yep.
Well, I did. You cannot, in our own business, for example, we send a lot of emails out, right? I cannot, just a few. I cannot tell you the amount of times people email in after an offer is over and say, I can't believe I missed it because you didn't tell me enough time. You didn't give me enough time. We've been telling you this for the last month, but I didn't have a chance to read my emails. I can't help that. You had a month of warning about this, and the deal's over now. So people sometimes just miss things, or they won't have time to read things. So because it's gone out in here, the identical offer somewhere else, they might actually get a chance to read it now, and now someone would have gone through the cracks, may end up being a client.
So would you guys like a really quick way to, once you have a little bit of a list, to multiply your effectiveness of Groupon and to really make sites like Groupon love you? So when you're running an ad, they'll tell you what day it's going to run. I would recommend, let's say your ad is going to run on a Friday, I would recommend you set up an email campaign to your list Monday and get them started to prepare for the promotion that's going to run for one day only, and tell your clients, campaign them just like you would, hey, I've got a deal coming up, and I'll send you a link on Friday morning, get in there while you can. Tuesday comes up, hey, just a reminder, hope you're having a good week at work, or wherever you happen to be, maybe it's in the Bahamas, and I'd like to remind you, I'm doing a really great deal. And
70% off.
It's going to be 70% off. And you know what? Because you're on my list, I want to send you guys something free in addition that you won't see on Groupon. So as soon as you click on the Groupon deal and you buy that, and you send me your receipt, which again might take you a little bit of time to process, I'll give you a free gift.
MP3 report.
Right?
Whatever.
MP3 report. Right? Just as an extra thanks for being on my list. Wednesday comes around. You go, hey, I don't know if you saw my email yesterday, but in 2 days' time, I'm running the deal of all deals. It'll work like gangbusters for you.
And you don't have to belong to the FBI for this one.
And you don't have to even belong to the FBI. And as a reminder from yesterday, I'm going to give you some free stuff. Thursday rolls around. 1 day left to get your deal. Go ahead and sign up on this list. Or, go ahead and get my email tomorrow and sign up for my Groupon, and I guarantee you'll have a great time. Friday comes around, the ad actually goes up. Other people are seeing it, but you send to your list. If you don't send to your list, you're missing out on a huge opportunity. These are people that already love you. Many times they've already paid for something that you're offering anyway, right? Sometimes you've already just built the relationship enough to where they haven't purchased from you, but at a massive 50, 75, whatever % discount, oh, well, I better take care of that today. And oftentimes what I'll do is I'll get the same effect as Igor, is, you know what, instead of giving Groupon the money and letting them sign up there, you know what, you guys, since I like you and you're on my list, and you know what, you missed it. I'm sorry, you're busy at work today on a Friday. I'll send them an email out on Saturday and say, you know what, I'm sorry you missed the Groupon deal, but because you're on my list, I will give you the same deal if you sign up here on my website. Today only.
Tomorrow.
Right? Tomorrow,
you'll be
sorry
crying
you've
over
missed
spilled
it.
milk.
This is only a special bonus for people on my list. Don't send it to anyone else in case they, try to get me on my deal, and people will send it because you tell them not to. In some cases, I have made more with that email the day after than I made entirely on Groupon. And Groupon keeps none of it.
Yay.
So I get paid essentially double to do, again, my song and dance, to have them become better and better clients. So is this starting to make sense to you guys? Yes? Yes. Yes? Good.
Some
question
questions
over here, yeah.
Can we have the mic over the back here, and then we'll come over here?
And if, in the meantime, while the deal is running, on your homepage, the website from which the website from Groupon actually has your website on the page, when the people there click on your website and you have a squeeze page ready, then you get their email anyway, and then for those who don't purchase it on the Saturday, then you can also get them to sign up and keep all the money.
Thank you for presenting the tip I was just about to tell them.
You're very welcome. Back to you, Joe.
Did you guys all understand that? So when I'm running an ad on Groupon, oftentimes they will allow you to put a link to your own website on that page. On that day and that day only, my website, the only way you can get to it is through a squeeze page. And that squeeze page, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, is simply a little bit of copywriting there, possibly even a small video if you're nice and sophisticated, and that name and email box so they can sign up for my list. Because people will want to go check you out. People will want to see what you have to offer, possibly even besides this. They'll want to see, who is this, guy named Joe, and why is he, giving me this stuff? Who is he anyway? Or what is the Happy Copy Hypnotherapy Clinic? What do they do? And on that day, usually that day only, I'll put the squeeze page up for every other page redirects to that one. So unless you put in your email, you can't get any other information. I'll say, we're doing a really fantastic deal today on the body copy, and say, if you want to know some more about our services, here's a quick link. We'll send you a bunch of free stuff. And people sign up on there too. So I recommend any way that you can be inventive and think of to get people on that list, get them on that list. Hopefully you can bypass stuff like, Groupon's 50% that they're going to take. But I don't really look at it as 50%. Again, I look at it as my clients are just paying me to advertise to them. And, there's a reason why Groupon in particular, but all the rest of those businesses just like it, are literally the fastest growing businesses in the history of the world right now. Because they're providing a service that on the surface of it doesn't look like much, but for a business owner is genius. Where else do you get paid to get in front of people, right? That's very, very rare.
So can you let people know how often they're allowed to advertise on Groupon itself? How long do they have to wait before they can come back?
So Groupon might not be able to enforce the policy of you going to other sites, but oftentimes they won't run the same ad for at least 6 months. And again, it's just sort of the nature of the game. But that's why I make sure to get that part of the contract written out so that I can continue to go on maybe 4 or 5 other sites while I'm waiting for Groupon to sort of reset so
Which
I can
is
go
like
back
the
again.
farmer's market. You
Right?
can't go there
We haven't
for
got
12
there yet.
Yep. But they get the idea, I
Yep.
guess.
Which is like the farmer's market. You can't go there, every single day, right? You go, every couple weeks or whatever happens to be. Do you have another question? Oh, comment. Do you want to get a microphone?
Get a mic over
too?
here. Also, you can change the deal, so you don't make the same deal, but I'm
Right.
guessing you can make a lecture demo on topic X, but in the meantime, whilst it's waiting to reset, you can offer something else, a CD,
Yep.
or a different lecture demo on a different topic. So just because that one topic is offline for 6 months,
Yeah.
doesn't mean you can't start building other sides of your business as well.
And the better you do for Groupon, the more they'll want you back.
Right.
So if you've got something really sells offline, you're doing it yourself anyway, which is something I highly recommend that you test a lot of this stuff before you go to a bigger market like Groupon. If you know something sells really well to your particular clients and it's selling a lot for them, they'll want to come back. Of course, they're gonna making tons of money from you. So let me ask right here, and then we'll get back to you.
Okay. We had a meeting with Groupon just before coming out, and
Yep.
we said because we're a capacity limited to what we can offer,
Right.
we want the offer limited to so many to be sold,
Right.
but the offer to be repeated at set periods. And that was
So-
put into the contract at the beginning.
Excellent. So I guess that's another way you can do it. Did you guys all hear that?
So what he was saying is basically, because he's doing hypnotherapy and he only sees, say, 10 clients per offer, so it's only a small offer at that time, he's changed the contract with Groupon and said, look guys, change the contract, we're only going to have 10 people, but once a month or once every 3 weeks, run the same offer over and over and over again. Only a small amount of people will take me up on it, but you'll get small amounts of cash consistently, and you of course get more clients consistently, hence the 6-month limit can be lifted if you're doing hypnotherapy programs where you can space it out and repeat the same offer in shorter periods because the limits are, fewer people can take advantage of it.
Yeah.
It's nice.
So that's actually really nice. I'm gonna have to try that. Thank you. Everything is negotiable, right?
Who was
So we
next?
had a microphone over here.
How do you make a squeeze page, and how do you turn it on and turn it off?
Well, first of all, we have made a squeeze page for you. You'll just need to pay someone to put it online for you. We'll show you in the next session. We've got a photograph of what you'll be getting. It's actually a very simple little piece, and once you have one made, you can just tell a techie guy, say, make me another one of these and copy it as often as you need to.
Yeah.
In terms of turning it on and off, that's just a question of what URL does it get sent to. In other words, what website do you give Groupon to send to people, and then that's where they'll get sent.
Yeah. I have a slightly more advanced technique of I use WordPress as my engine in the background, and I have the ability to turn whatever page that I want to be the first page that everybody sees. And because I have a huge technical background anyway, I know how to redirect every other page to be to that page for a couple hours temporarily. It's more of an advanced skill that you're going to have to, you can ask
If
me
you-
about later, or
If you have a good
we can
IT
learn.
guy, if you go to one of the websites like guru.com or
Yeah.
Odesk or some of these things where you can find, specialists, and you find an IT guy that you know and you trust, you got to experiment a little bit. Recruiting people is always not easy. But when you find someone who's decent, they'll be able to do all these things for you. Just say, I need this to happen, and they can do it. You just need to...
Sorry, could you write those sites down?
Sure.
Oh,
write
yeah,
down,
yeah.
Guys,
Sorry.
write down a couple of places
Yep.
where they can get like IT people. Guru is one of them. You'll just have to be careful because the quality, all things are not come at equal qualities. And if you know someone who's in IT and who understands these things, they may be willing to help you test a couple of recruits to say this guy is good, and then you can just run with this guy for a while. That's the simplest way of doing it.
How hard is it? I mean, is it like learning Spanish? I mean, how hard is it to learn how to do?
How long is a piece of string, right? For Joe, it's easy.
Yeah.
For me, it's probably like...
Oh, sorry.
Well, actually, like learning Spanish
I'll
would
run
be easy
through in a
because I can
second.
speak Spanish.
I know how to speak Spanish.
But
See, I told you it was easy for you.
Is it a 3-day thing that you learn, or is it 2 years?
No. In order to learn how to use WordPress, it took me, I guess, maybe a combined month worth of time over a long period of time, just because I wasn't dedicated to it. I suppose it would take me, gosh, when I first learned WordPress, it was kind of in its infancy. Right now, it's literally 5 minutes to install it and go. For pretty much the average person, I can do it in like 3 seconds to install a new WordPress site. And then as far as the really technical bit of redirecting every one of my pages, the system that I use could literally take you years to learn. And it takes me seconds to implement now because I have that knowledge. But it's just like for yourself, how do you do acupuncture? It's like I couldn't do acupuncture, but you could do it in seconds. So I know that for WordPress, and I haven't investigated this, so I can't promise you that it would be there. But I know that for WordPress is a software system that you can run a website or a blog on, and oftentimes they will have what are called plugins. They're like little portions of a program that can do a specific task that you might need that almost everyone else won't. And I would be willing to bet money that there is a plugin that would do the same job that I do on my own manually, automatically for you. Okay,
PrettyLink
here we
Pro.
go. PrettyLink Pro. I'll write that down.
You can get a free version, PrettyLink Lite, and then just upgrade it.
So PrettyLink Lite is the free version that you can play around with and test out. And PrettyLink Pro is the paid-for version if you decide you like the Lite version.
So three places I'll hire people to be coders or work for me. Oftentimes I'll try Odesk. In particular for someone who's more technical, can help you with websites, stuff like that. Hireacoder.com is actually a nice website to go to. And again, quality varies, so you're going to have to really test them out on some stuff. And I'll come to you in a second. Can we get a
There's a couple
microphone
more
over here?
mic questions over here first,
And-
and we'll come over then.
Oh, yeah, okay. We'll answer your question in a sec. And then the other one is Fiverr, Fiverr.com. There are people on here, on this website, this is a fairly new one. You pay them $5 and they'll do
All kinds of crazy
all
things.
kinds of crazy stuff for you.
We've had people who will transcribe 20 minutes of audio for $5, which is
That's
insanely
incredibly cheap.
Not all are good. Some are great, some are terrible. Some take a long time but are decent. You can get people who will sing your any text that you write, like a love song to your girlfriend, in any style that you want for $5, which is kind of fun. Someone will sing it purposely bad. Some will actually pretty decent. So you find all kinds of weird stuff on it. It's one of these fascinating masquerade balls that you just go into and go, I can't believe people are actually offering this.
Yep.
But some of the stuff there is actually really quite decent too. And as I say, the price can be phenomenally cheap. Just bear in mind, you will have to wade through an amount of mud to get through to the gems that are hidden inside. So that's something where you need to test and be willing to invest the time and the frustration of someone messing things up and then, trying it again.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, you had another question?
Okay. Yeah, I've had some friends who were a little disillusioned as consumers with Groupon because they felt like the business owner sort of was a false advertisement, whereas, let's say they were signing up for 3 sessions of something.
Yep.
When the normal session would be like an hour, but then they got there and they got a half hour. So,
Right.
What does Groupon have any built-in things to protect the consumer from that sort of thing?
If they have enough, I think they do. If they have enough customers that complain about a particular deal, if they're not getting the right stuff, then Groupon, like I said, they keep your money and then pay you out in small increments usually. They'll just keep your money and then they'll never let you on their website again. So,
that does protect the
you know,
consumer.
Be ethical, folks.
Be ethical, right, guys?
Everything
Yeah.
we've talked about here so far, there's no need to do anything else. I know you're ethical.
Yeah.
I understand
No,
you're a
just that
businessman.
I've
Yeah.
heard these
Yeah.
horrible stories.
Yeah,
about-
I've heard, I have a friend who's so on the opposite side too, I've heard that Groupon customers can be terrible. So I have a friend who's a restaurateur, and he said he ran a Groupon deal, and let's say it was like, he runs sort of a high-end restaurant, so it was like a $75 dinner, and you get it for half price. and he said people would pay with like the little Groupon gift certificate that they give you, but no one would leave a tip, and it was horrible, right? Like, so there are people out there that will take advantage of you as a business owner as well.
Yeah.
And this is again why we harp on build a relationship with these people. And you don't really take advantage of somebody who's a friend, right? But if you see a deal and you're like, oh, they can handle it, I'm sure they're still making money. I'm not going to even give them a tip. It's especially for the wait staff, that's pretty horrible for a restaurant.
Right.
So it works both ways. Be ethical.
Just follow Joe's general idea, which is when you offer a Groupon thing, think ahead carefully in terms of, make it a low investment or low risk thing for you, like a lecture demo. So if you have 50 people in the room, of which 40 are complete waste of space, they're just coming in for the freebies, but 10 of which could actually be interested, and maybe even only 5 of which or 3 of which become actual clients, that's still you still being paid money to get 3 free clients, and that's worth it, right? Does that kind of make sense? There's a question right in the back of the room as well afterwards.
We got here first, yeah.
So in terms of using those websites and identifying the right people to do some programming, what kind of questions should we be asking? What should we be looking for when we're interviewing people?
So in our resource guide, I believe we have the types of questions you can ask somebody.
That's for lawyers and CPAs.
All right,
and we have a process to train VPAs, but not for tech.
So I'll give you a few that I use. One, especially for coders, designers, things like that, show me a portfolio.
Yes.
Number 2, if you would allow me, can I speak to some of your previous clients or customers? And number 3 is all of these sites, this isn't a site, all of these sites have a ranking system that you'll be able to see reviews from a lot of their customers anyway. And yeah, it's possible to game those reviews, that kind of thing, but they're usually a pretty good proxy for how good that person is. They have many times the people who are, especially like on Fiverr and Odesk, are from other countries where the $100, $200 you'll pay them is half a month's salary.
Yep.
And it costs them 5 minutes worth of their work, but it's very much in their incentive to not game those and do some honest work for you. So I always ask for a portfolio. If they don't have something, then there's plenty more to look for and move on. And I always ask for someone I can personally contact and look after. I've been burned a few times, but on the whole, most people are about as good as you're going to find.
What we also do is, and this is more because we're looking for people we can rely on to, we have a lot of work, as you can imagine, so we're looking constantly for people we can rely on to farm out stuff on a consistent basis. So we'll give them test pieces of work, right? We'll give them something simple, something which we know roughly how long it should take, and see how well they do. And if they mess it up, well, that was their chance. If they do a decent job of it, then great. If they do an okay job, they could do better though, we'll give them feedback, give them maybe another go, and if they do a great job the second time around, then go, great. Well, we'll see if we can build a relationship with that. It probably would not be a good idea if you went straight for like the most important thing you need to get done, because I think that's a bit too much of a risk. So start with something small, test them out. When you get to like someone, excellent. If you know people in the IT industry, it's even better if they will help you by creating these test pieces and checking on their work. And then once you've got a few people you can rely or trust on, then you just build with that. You just go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody asked, how are you going to make a squeeze page, right?
Yep.
So that's somebody who is running his own business.
Yep.
So it's nice if you can make an email list and have a squeeze page, and both of those things Aweber will take care of. So on Aweber you can make 20 web forms in 10 minutes.
You're right.
In all the colors, templates. So that's a very easy solution, I think.
You're right. I haven't used that portion of Aweber in a long time, but Aweber, the email sending service that we recommend that you use, has the ability to create a squeeze page hosted by them that you can design and control the look of and text and everything on there, and then obviously collect emails and get on their list. So yeah, thank you. That's a useful
Yeah, and
a
it's
simple-
it's $193 every year you have to pay, and you can run 60,000 websites on it.
there you go.
Exaggerating a little bit, but
Yeah.
let's say if you have six,
Aweber
7
is
websites.
Yeah.
Aweber is a great service, and what you're suggesting is a really simple solution. Ultimately, especially when you get a little bit more familiar with the techie side of things, you probably want to have things where you can control the website and the URL and so on, just because it makes for a much more streamlined business. So it's definitely a skill worth acquiring over time. But this is a nice, simple, quick fix as well until you get to that point. So thank you.
So
Could you try an Aweber on the board quickly?
I'll write it up here.
It's in your resource guide, but that's coming later. So this is one of the industry standards. Use a different one as well, don't you? We don't use the other guide, but we started with Aweber.
I also
This
use
entire-
another one called Eye Contact. Yeah,
So-
another one called MailChimp. MailChimp.com is
Right,
pretty
so
popular, and
we haven't tried them, so we can't necessarily recommend things we haven't tried.
Yep.
Aweber, Joe's tried.
I'll write another one
we've
up here,
used.
too.
We started this whole company with it, so it's a pretty reliable service. And if you want to try out other services, by all means do so as well.
Another one that's kind of a new one on the block is called SendPepper.com, and they actually have some nice customer relationship management tools for. I know somebody back there was interested in that stuff.
Have you tried them yet?
I have tried them out a little bit. I just haven't had the time to really give them a thorough go, but they seem pretty nice.
Okay, so
So,
we've played with
you
it a
know.
bit, but just a caveat emptor. We haven't got full experience of it, so we're trying the best to recommend things we know of and have tried. And if we don't know about them or it's industry standard, we'll just tell you this is what a lot of people are using, but we can't actually give you a personal testimonial or a review of it because we don't know about it.
So would you guys mind if I moved on to a couple of the websites and we can have some question and answer time a little bit later?
Yes,
All
let's
right.
do that.
So this is a really fun one that I use, meetup.com. Meetup.com, I think we've talked about a little bit before, but the whole idea of meetup.com is that people can come on this website and they can create or join groups in their local area, in their national area, wherever it happens to be. The best bang for your buck on this site at first is going to be to find groups in your area, because you can do by city or zip code and by topic. Essentially, the first thing I did when I did a stop smoking program as my first few weeks as a hypnotherapist was I went and I typed smoking and then my city right there. And I found I think it was 10 or 15 smoking groups. Half of them were for hypnotists in the area. So I still went to them. And you'll see all sorts of groups for every kind of interest. And I recommend at first going to the ones where you're planning on your niche being, so that you can get a really good sense of the actual real life flesh and blood people that you're going to be marketing to, that you're going to be seeing as clients. And then the next thing that I like to do I have a picture of it? Nope, sorry. The next thing I like to do is start a group. And I will start a group both for hypnosis, because in general people are usually interested in hypnosis, and I will start a group based on the niche plus hypnotherapy or hypnosis in some way. It may not have to be sort of in the title of the group, but I will mention that hypnosis or hypnotherapy is involved, and if people are interested, then they can sign up. I have groups that I run that some are small. They're like 5 or 10 people might show up, if that. I have some groups that I'm a part of that I didn't necessarily start, that there'll be 300 or 400 people that descend upon a hotel once a month, and I can go in and talk with them. I highly, highly recommend that you get on here and you start looking and joining and really going to these meetups, because you'll get so much information about your market, and I can almost guarantee you will get clients. If you go...
Just remember the very first exercise you did here on way back when, all the way these 2-3 days ago, where you walked around and instead of just trying to pitch someone else about everything you do, you were curious about what is it you need? What is it that I could possibly have that could help you, right? If that is the mindset you go into these meetups, 2 things will happen. Number one, your ability to understand your clients will just skyrocket, which is phenomenal all by itself. Number two, you'll find people who will feel about you the way you ended up feeling about some of the other people in this room when they did that for you and went, well, I really like this person. I think I can really work with this person.
Yep.
And that's when you naturally find a client. It's a totally different idea to the whole networking process, to the classical approach. And personally, I think it's a much more effective and useful one, but try it out and decide for yourselves, right?
So would you guys like to know 2 secrets for meetups and meetup.com that I use to actually increase business like crazy? So number 1, we're talking about knowing your market a bit better. I actually put a small digital recorder in my pocket. It's very visible because in California, recording somebody is what's called a 2-party state, where the other person has to know you're recording. So lawyers, don't sue me, please. And I will say, do you mind if I record this conversation? Because I really like to go over this and really like to know what you need. And it's a really great conversation starter, because what's this thing sticking out of your, lapel here? And it looks kind of weird. And it gets people interested in me, and then I can talk with them about really what they need. I'll go home and I'll study those tapes. And I'll sometimes just have them playing on in the background, listening to conversations that I've had, and I get a really good sense of the language that people use, the emotion behind it, how people talk about their problems, their issues, their interests, their dreams, all of these things that we've been talking about. And I get a really good sense of how I can do that, and I can play it over and over, and I can go, what did they say? Rewind it, go back and go, oh, yeah, that's what they said. That's a brilliant quote. And I mean, just like being in a seminar, right? You hear like this little nugget, and then you kind of go off and you process, and you're like, oh, wow, that was a fantastic thought. And you miss half the conversation of them saying, the next 4 or 5 sentences or something. And you're like, man, I didn't even know they said that. Oftentimes I'll come back home and I'll listen to the tape and I'm like, whoa, they had a really brilliant conversation with me while I was thinking about something completely different. So I like to review that. And the number 1 secret that I have for meetup.com is meetup.com has this facility where when you sign up as a group organizer, you can set up groups. But what I like to do is set up what they call, you can be a group sponsor. And sponsoring a group allows you as a business owner or even just an individual to say, okay, here's the stop smoking group for, my city. Or let's make a better example, because that one's a little more difficult, but something like the yoga meditation group in my area. You can sign up to be a sponsor for that group, and whenever they meet, they can get free offers from you. They can get discounted stuff. And just like Groupon, these people are very interested in that particular niche. So when you send them stuff like that, you have to get the farmer's market or the owner of the list's permission to actually be a sponsor of this stuff. But every time someone comes to those meetup.com groups and looks at the stuff, you'll have a little offer there as a sponsor of the group, and it costs you nothing. It doesn't actually cost you any money to do this unless you decide you want to give something away that costs you money, of course. But often what I'll do for like a group that's like, for a yoga meditation one or something, is I will offer, vastly discounted sessions or something like that, or products or services to that particular group and only to members of that group. And I can tell you that people will take you up on those things. So does that sound like something that's pretty useful for you guys? Yes? Just like 4 of you? You gonna take me up on that? So you do not have to pay to be a sponsor for the group unless you decide like, oh, I'll provide you drinks for this next thing. That's going to cost you some money. But otherwise, Meetup takes nothing, and I don't think the group is even allowed to necessarily ask for like any sort of fees to become a sponsor or anything like that.
So how do you then... You're just offering the members of that group special freebies. Let's say...
Yep. I offer them usually I'll offer like a free MP3 or CD or something like that.
Exactly. So when they go to that group and there'll be a little thing that says, oh, the sponsor says you can have this free MP3, do you want it? They go, oh, wow, yeah, sure, thank you. So you get yourself that relationship there.
That's why I first say join a group, because you'll get a good idea of what meetup.com, as far as the listings of the group and the descriptions, will allow. And then when I start a group, I will make it similar to what those sound like. That being said, maybe they're getting better about policing them, but I see plenty of blatant business promotion groups out there, and they're still out there. So, you know, I
So
would
just
recommend,
reword
again,
things.
you know, meetup.com likes to keep their own list of your people. I would recommend as soon as they sign up, say, hey, come here on my website and get a free gift. Now they're on your list. So it really doesn't matter if meetup.com shuts you down because that person is on your list.
Okay.
So let me just move on to another 2 sites that I can show you. These are a couple of my favorites. And again, I want you guys to think about the principles of these types of sites and don't necessarily pick, you know, this particular site that I happen to be using. So this one is, well, that's kind of a long screenshot. Worked better than the iPad. Is for a website called thumbtack.com. And there are actually a bunch of websites just like thumbtack.com. I know, I'll spell it out for you. There's another website this is basically, thumbtack.com is a service directory, and I can't write and talk at the same time. So thumb, like my thumb, tack.com. And this is a service directory site, so there's all sorts of different service professionals in here, plumbers, contractors, and hypnotists and hypnotherapists, of course. So on here, you can actually create yourself a nice little profile, and that happens to be mine. And just like a lot of websites lately, they've gamified their websites. You get points for doing certain things on Thumbtack. Essentially, from what I can tell, thumbtack.com is actually run by a bunch of people who do background checks. And they will charge you a small fee to do a background check, but most of the thing they won't charge you. So, you know, they'll say, oh, your phone number has been verified, your email has been verified, and basically this is sort of a proxy to say, you know, this is a quality service provider. They're going to be around for a while. They have a phone number you can contact, everything else. And I will, I have a profile up here. You can put some pictures, you can put some videos, all sorts of stuff. You can put free offers. I've never had them ban me for, you know, any sort of things like promoting any sort of deals or my business or anything like that. So your mileage may vary. They may be better at policing it by the time you see this video. And I go on here, and thumbtack.com actually charges you to talk to some people. So this is a fun thing about thumbtack.com. Remember I said I use Craigslist a lot to post about my services. Thumbtack.com actually will take that profile page that they have for you. They will do all the work behind the scenes to do all the HTML code, the website code that it would take to make a really sort of nice looking profile and put it on Craigslist automatically for you. And then they have this service that emails you every couple of days and says, hey, reminder, put your stuff back on Craigslist because they've probably taken it down already. And all you have to do is click on that link that says post your ad in Craigslist. It pops up thumbtack.com, and then you hit go, and you now got a full post of your entire profile on Craigslist in like 2 clicks. So it's actually a really nice service. And like I was said, you have to pay for, oftentimes, if they come through those links in Craigslist or if they come through Thumbtack, you'll have to pay to actually talk to these leads that they're sending you. If you're getting a lot of leads, usually they have like a monthly plan that you can pay like $30 a month or something like that. In these cases, I think it was like $4 a month to really talk to and contact, or $4 a time to contact these people. And it can just be a useful service directory. And again, this is one service directory out there. There are dozens. I am on as many of them as I can possibly be because it is another channel that I can get people onto my list. I want them on my list. These people, I can probably turn most of these people directly into clients, and I have. But the people that are looking for me on my profile, I'll have stuff where I don't think I'm running any promotions right now, but I'll say, if you're interested in weight loss, get this free report. If you're interested in stopping smoking, get this free report, get this CD, get this MP3, get whatever it is for me. And when they come to that site, or that page on my website, they have to give me their name and email address because I'm giving them value. They've got to give me something in return. So this is what it looks like to sort of submit a quote. Oftentimes you'll compete against other hypnotherapists or something in your area, and oftentimes it'll actually say the readiness of the person to actually buy it. On there it says still planning or budgeting. That's usually a lie because most people, if they've gone to this length to actually send an email through Thumbtack, you can probably convert them as a client right away if you just give them a call. And you can quote your prices. You can put similar sort of email to the kind of conversation you have about providing value. You can even, I've tried versions of sort of like the letter to a friend in there based on what they've told me in their little blurb about what they can tell you. And it works. Most people will contact you back, and I have them call my phone number and have a nice phone conversation with them using the same phone call process that we taught for you guys. So I highly recommend getting on directory sites, if only to boost your own website's credibility in the marketplace, because you're out there as a business, people are kind of seeing you everywhere. Then they'll go, I saw Orange County Hypnosis or Happy Clappy Hypnosis on Craigslist, and I also saw them over here, and I'm kind of seeing them everywhere. And it just establishes you as a sort of a more legitimate business. You're not like just coming through the town, sort of fly-by-night operation, right? So the other sort of big 800-pound gorilla in the market, and another service directory, again, that's been a really great place for my business has been Yelp. Yelp.com, I'll just write it up for everybody. YELP.com. And again, it's just a service directory. It's, in my opinion, mainly people think it's for restaurants, and a lot of people go there to search restaurants. But as a business owner, you can set up a page, and you can get all sorts of reviews of your services. People read these, by the way, and I've had people say, oh, I read this review on Yelp, and I really liked what that other person said. Do you think this one happens to be a client of mine that I helped stop smoking? And almost every client of mine leaves a 5-star review because they feel so happy. And at the end of my session, I go, if you really like this service, would you mind reviewing me on Yelp or something like that? And people are so happy to do that. So you can use these reviews, and people will read them. And I often get, they're just like testimonials in our sales letters. I'll often get people referring, saying, I read that person got pack a day, 12-year habit. They quit smoking. Do you think you might be able to get me off my, 1 cigarette a day habit? And I'm like, sure, of course, no problem. And as a business owner, if you own, sort of your own listing, and you're not required to pay for this, Yelp will always give you metrics and information about not only how many people are coming to view your little profile on their website, but who they are as well. You can get pretty detailed metrics. They're anonymized, of course, but you can get pretty detailed metrics of this many, this percentage of women are coming to your site, this percentage of men, these are the age ranges, all those demographics that, we're kind of searching for. These are the ones who are actually coming to your website, not the ones who are just out there. So again, it's just more data points, more things you can do to find out about your market. And another favorite thing of mine to do on Yelp is you can do daily deals with them now too. A lot of businesses like these directory sites are getting into the daily deals market because it's such a huge moneymaker for them. And you can really create some pretty nice deals with Yelp customers. And in my experience, they will actually buy your stuff. And as far as creating a relationship with them, I always make sure to create that relationship and keep it ongoing. I don't want a daily deal to be something like that they get it and they leave. Any other questions?
Are those as deeply discounted as Groupons?
So the question was, are those as deeply discounted as Groupons? And the answer is, it depends. But usually, yeah, they like about 50% off. Another daily deals site that you can go on for free, Google does a daily deals one. Almost no one uses it, so your results may vary. And I would just keep looking around the market for places like this. Amazon.com.
Amazon Local.
Amazon Local, excuse me, also does advertisements and stuff that you can go on. I have a little Kindle reader that I got as a Christmas present, and as part of the price, it's like subsidized by ads. So I actually get Amazon Local ads like on my Kindle, which I actually thought was kind of cool as a business owner. I was like, huh, I didn't know I could get chocolate for 75% off in my local area. I'm not really a chocolate eater, but now I might be, you know. So it was kind of interesting. You know, it's just like there's all kinds of marketing channels out there, right? There's different places that your particular niche, your target market, are going to be more interested in than not. Some people are going to really want to be advertised to on Yelp. Yelp can do deals for you where you have to sign up for like 6 months. So in my case, it's becoming a nice deal, but it wasn't when they offered it to me. But they'll offer you a deal where they'll run an ad for you. You'll get top listings in their searches, and oftentimes on your profile, I don't know if you can see it on my profile or not. Do I even have my profile here? I guess not. On your profile, they'll run competing ads for like other hypnotherapists or other similar services on your profile. They'll take those off. And what is something I really like is they'll hire, at their own expense, you eventually pay for it, is they'll hire a film crew to come out and do a commercial for you that actually runs as a little web ad right on your profile page. And I can tell you that converts customers like no other. Video is the way to go, people. If you're doing stuff on the internet, if you can, add video wherever you can, because instead of just, you know, a picture of my face or my office or even my logo or something up there, people now get an interactive experience of me. You remember we talked about that having, especially our business being a very personal business, having those touch points, those face-to-face, as much as possible contacts is very, very important. And Yelp can actually give you the data if you call them up, but I think the last time they quoted me, it was like something like 2 or 3 times the amount of people that normally would click on your stuff and book you as services will book you if you have that package. And it can be, if you do the math, it can be very, very worth it for you. So check in with these sites, see what they have to offer. And by no means are these the only ones. These are some that have worked well for me, and my guess is that they will probably work well for you. My goal is to give you the strategies and principles behind them and how I think about them so that you guys can be successful with this.
So, who's learned something useful here?
Yes.
All right. So, it looks like the room is getting very bohemian and hot. So let's save the questions until the next session. And let's have a nice 20-minute break so you can all have a little bit of a decompression and so on. We'll come back here and then we'll wrap up for the day. Okay, guys? All right. 20 minutes from now, please.
Beautiful. And if I may, interesting fact, since you've asked, Gangbusters came from RCA in the 1930s. It was originally put together to help promote the Bureau of Investigation being federalized, so the public would accept the idea of the Federal Bureau of Investigation interfering in the different states.
Great. It works like the FBI.
Thank you.
Thank you.